Welcome to On the JOB with me, Lynn Parrish. I'm the editor of the Journal of Business, and I'm here today with Leanne Bjerken, who's one of the reporters at the Journal. How you doing, Leanne?
Pretty good.
Good.
Back again.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's been too long.
Well, thank you.
So, Leanne, you wrote a great story this time about a rise in substance use by pregnant women in Spokane County. And so I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about how you got onto that story and what you found.
Sure. So this story kind of evolved when we were looking at some of the data for the Journal's annual Market Fact book.
Yeah.
And we had noticed that there was just a bit of an increase in the percentage of newborns in Spokane County with low birth weight.
Sure.
And one of the things that I kind of got to wondering was whether or not there was a connection between low birth weight and any increases in substance use. So that was the idea that I took with me for an interview with some of the officials at the Spokane Regional Health District.
Sure.
For this piece.
Yeah, that's great. And the interesting thing about those numbers was that, if I remember correctly, the percentage of low birth weight births was up, but teen mothers was down, and infant mortality, or was it infant mortality was down as well?
I believe so. Yeah.
Newborn mortality was down. So it stuck out a little bit more to us. When we talk about substance use, what kind of substances are we referring to?
So in talking with the health officials, it sounded like from speaking with some of their nurses within their Nurse Family Partnership Program and programs like the Birth Outcomes Task Force, smoking prevention, that kind of thing, that they have been seeing in general an increase in cases of children and infants that are affected by substance abuse within the family, whether that's parents that are using or mothers that are smoking or using substances. So the easiest one to track, from what I've heard, is smoking in pregnant women.
Tobacco.
Yes,
Yeah,
tobacco.
yeah.
So from what I can tell, the reason that it's more difficult to track other kinds of usage is because a lot of the substance users are using multiple substances at once.
Oh, sure.
But
sure.
smoking is the easiest to track and detect consistently. So some of the other substances that we're talking about when we're talking about substances that are used, those include tobacco, of course, alcohol, opioids, cannabis, sedatives, cocaine, and other stimulants, hallucinogens, inhalants, and other psychoactive substances.
Sure. Are there any of those that are obviously some of those have greater health effects or immediate health effects than others? Are there any that are of greater concern to the health district than others?
One of the big ones, especially given the kind of the national focus as well, is the increase in use of opioids and opioid addictions.
Sure.
But also one of the other big ones, of course, since marijuana was legalized in 2012, they have said that they have seen an increase in mothers that will come in and admit to using cannabis as something to help them with morning sickness, or
Sure.
when they have a need to go off of medications to deal with, say, anxiety issues and other things like antidepressants. Cannabis is what they turn to kind of relieve some of those symptoms, because what they've found is that, a lot of people, given that it's legal now, tend to have this idea that it's safe, when that might not necessarily be the case.
And when you say might not, one of the things that they said is that there isn't a lot of research on what happens when you use marijuana when pregnant. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's one of the things that they're kind of struggling with, because there is some research, but then, it's all kind of it's difficult to, I guess, the health providers have a difficult time in saying, well, this study for sure supports evidence that
Sure.
it's always bad in all cases, never
Yeah.
do it, etc. When there's also potentially conflicting studies out there that maybe say something the opposite, or you have a mother that'll come in and say, well, my friend smoked cannabis her whole pregnancy and her child seems fine, why
Sure.
is this not okay? So they're kind of working to find supportive research to definitively back the healthier outcomes.
Sure,
I guess
sure,
you could say.
sure. And I think that's true with marijuana in a lot of cases where 10 years from now we're going to know a lot more about health effects, good and bad, than we do today. Now, when we talk about and I know you're not a medical professional, but I think it would be good to just touch very briefly on what are some of the concerns of using substances while pregnant.
That's one that I didn't bring all of my notes on for.
Sure, but
it has been shown that it can result in low birth weights, but also just the idea of the fact that we really don't know what potential outcomes that substances could have on infants. There's been research that has kind of led them to believe that as children get older that they might have some developmental delays as a result of the mother's substance use. But also beyond that, having a mother, especially a new mother who's never been a parent before and is figuring all of these things out for the first time, to have her be using a substance that alters chemicals in her brain is probably not the best situation to be putting a new parent into.
Well, and then there are cases where there are babies that are being born addicted to opioids. Isn't that correct? And
That's
potentially
the other big
substances,
one.
but
Yes.
yeah.
Yep. There were statistics from the state's data listing that 14 of every 1,000 newborns born in hospitals in Spokane County in 2016 did display signs of having what they call opioid withdrawal syndrome.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so what is the health district doing in light of all of this research or all of this statistical data?
Well, one of the big things that they talked about was increasing education, and another big one was they recently expanded their a program that they call Weed to Know.
Yeah, sure.
Which was originally aimed at adolescents and
Sure.
Helping them to understand the effects of drug use and just prevent them from wanting to access drugs. And also they added a portion now called Weed to Know Baby and You, specifically aimed at some of these new mothers to just kind of make them more aware of potential research that supports that cannabis use is hard on newborns.
Sure.
And there's also, from what I had heard in the story, they're working to develop a new countywide opioid task force to kind of start working towards combating some of the issues around opioid access and use. Sorry.
Well, it was a great story, Leanne. The headline was an issue of substance, and you can find that on our website. I thought in general the women's health section was really strong this time, with a story about depression, a story about the research that Janessa Graves is doing with the WSU School of Nursing, and then Renee Johnston Gingrich's piece about self-care. I thought worked out really well.
Exactly.
So you can find all of those in this issue of the Journal. On your newsstands or at SpokaneJournal.com. Thanks for watching.